And you'll be able to find additional information describing that charge in the probable cause affidavit packet that we provided. We are also publicly identifying the victim as Laeken Marie West, a resident of Bradenton. And it's important to note that Ms. West has not yet been located.
Cold metal doors shut, quiet footsteps echo, and somewhere in that silence, a story begins to unravel that was never meant to be told. What looked like a routine arrest slowly exposes something far darker, something calculated, controlled, and deeply disturbing. A missing woman, a man who stayed calm, a little too calm, and evidence that doesn't just raise questions, it tears straight through the truth he tried to hold together. Piece by piece, investigators start seeing a pattern, one that doesn't end with just one victim. Because sometimes, the most dangerous person in the room is the one who never looks nervous. What started as a missing person case quickly turned into something far more unsettling. When 24-year-old Laeken Marie West suddenly disappeared in September 2024, nothing about it made sense. She wasn't someone who just vanished. She had plans, routines, people who expected her back, but days passed, then weeks, and there was nothing. No calls, no sightings, no trace. Her roommate knew something was wrong almost immediately. After 3 days of silence, panic set in, and police in Venice, Florida were called. At first, it followed the usual pattern. Missing person, possible voluntary disappearance, maybe she just needed space. But the deeper investigators looked, the more that theory started to fall apart. Phone records became the first real lead, and one name kept appearing over and over again: Ronald Raky. From late May all the way up to the day Laeken disappeared, the two had been in frequent contact. Calls, messages, consistent communication. That alone didn't prove anything, but it was enough for detectives to take a closer look. When they reached out to Raky, he didn't hesitate to talk. In fact, he seemed cooperative. He told them everything, or at least that's what it sounded like at first. According to Raky, he had met Laeken on September 13th. He admitted he picked her up from her residence in Bradenton, drove her to Venice for lunch, and later dropped her back. He described the day casually, almost like it was forgettable. He even mentioned that she was acting flaky on the way back and had asked him to stop so she could buy drugs, something he claimed he refused. Then came the detail that mattered most. He said he dropped her off on a street in Bradenton, and that was the last time he saw her. Simple. Clean. Too clean. Because when detectives started verifying his story, nothing lined up. There were no witnesses placing Laeken at the location where he claimed he dropped her, no surveillance footage, no license plate reader hits from his vehicle in that area. It was as if that moment, his version of events, never actually happened. Then came her phone data. The last confirmed activity from Laken's phone showed she was still en route to Venice. Her final answered call came in the morning, and after that, nothing. No outgoing calls, no texts, just unanswered attempts to reach her. It was like her phone, and possibly her life, just stopped mid-motion. That's when suspicion started to solidify. Detectives weren't just looking at inconsistencies anymore. They were looking at a timeline that pointed directly at one person, the last man who admitted seeing her alive. Still, they didn't have enough to charge him. Not yet. So the case sat there, unresolved, for months. Nearly 3 months passed without any sign of Laeken. No body, no confirmed location, just silence. But then, something changed everything. A journal. Laeken had been keeping personal notes, and inside that journal were details that immediately caught investigators' attention. The entries weren't just personal thoughts. They described encounters, specific ones. And one of them pointed straight back to Ronald Raky. In one entry, she wrote about a man who paid her $950 to allow him to chloroform her during sex. That detail alone was disturbing. But what made it even more chilling was who detectives believed that man was. So they went back to Raky. On December 19, 2024, he sat down again, this time at the Bradenton Police Department. And this time, the conversation felt different. Investigators weren't just asking questions anymore. They were confronting him. When they brought up the journal, Raky didn't completely deny it. Instead, he shifted the narrative. He claimed that Laeken had fantasies, things involving chloroform, restraints, even simulated assault scenarios. He tried to frame it as something she wanted, something she initiated. But then came a contradiction. He admitted he had chloroform. According to him, it was for cleaning car seats. That explanation didn't sit right. Not with detectives, and definitely not when paired with what was written in Laken's journal. And then, slowly, the cracks started to show. Raky admitted there were red flags in his own story. He even acknowledged that he might have lied earlier, to protect himself and his family. That moment mattered, because now, it wasn't just inconsistencies anymore. It was an admission that the truth had been altered. But even then, he still tried to steer away from responsibility. He suggested that maybe Laeken overdosed. Maybe she had a medical issue. Maybe something happened after he dropped her off. It was all speculation, carefully placed to create doubt, to shift focus. Except the evidence wasn't shifting with him. It was closing in. Because by now, detectives weren't just dealing with a missing person case anymore. They were building something much bigger. Something that suggested Laeken didn't just disappear. She never made it out of that day alive. As investigators dug deeper, the case began shifting from suspicion to something far more concrete and far more disturbing. What they uncovered next didn't just challenge Ronald Raky's version of events, it completely dismantled it. After that December interview, detectives moved quickly. They secured Raky's office and obtained a warrant to search his phone. And what they found there was something no one could ignore. Photos. Not just ordinary images, but explicit, deeply unsettling photographs of Laeken West. In them, she appeared restrained, handcuffs, cable ties, her body positioned on a desk inside Raky's office. Some images showed her partially clothed, others completely vulnerable. Nearby, investigators noted the presence of hypodermic needles sitting within reach, adding another layer of concern to an already disturbing scene. But the most critical detail wasn't just what the photos showed, it was when they were taken. Metadata revealed that at least one of those images was captured on September 13, 2024, the exact day Laeken disappeared. Around 9:59 a.m. That timestamp placed her inside Raky's office at a time when, according to his story, he had already dropped her off safely. That alone was devastating to his narrative. And it didn't stop there. Detectives also discovered earlier photos from September 7th, showing a similar pattern. Laeken, restrained again, in the same environment. This wasn't a one-time interaction. It suggested repetition, escalation, control. Then came another layer, his search history. Around the same time frame, Raky's phone showed searches for violent pornography and even snuff-themed content. Material that aligned disturbingly well with what was being uncovered. This wasn't coincidence anymore. It was behavior forming a pattern, one that investigators couldn't ignore. And just as this evidence came together, something else happened that raised even more alarm. On December 20th, the same day his phone was searched, Ronald Raky attempted to take his own life. He reportedly cut his wrist and overdosed. The attempt failed, but it led to his hospitalization. And that's where things took an even darker turn. According to medical records, just days later, a nurse documented a statement from Raky that would send chills through the investigation. "I killed 4 women 6 weeks ago." It wasn't said during interrogation. It wasn't pulled from a confession room. It was written in a medical note during treatment, when he was described as alert and oriented. Now, to be clear, detectives have stated there is no independent evidence confirming additional victims. But statements like that don't just get ignored. They raise questions, serious ones. Was it a confession? A delusion? Or something far worse that hadn't been uncovered yet? Either way, it added weight to a case that was already becoming overwhelming. And then came yet another piece of evidence, this time from outside Raky's own words and devices. A man named Charles came forward. He told investigators that around mid-September 2024, he had been paid in cash to deep clean a blue pickup truck belonging to Raky. At first, that might not seem unusual, but what he described next changed everything. He noticed a stain on the rear floor of the truck, something that didn't look normal. There was also a strange odor, one he couldn't quite place but knew wasn't right. As he cleaned, the water from the steam machine changed color. Unusually so. No receipts, no documentation, just cash payment and a job that, in hindsight, felt off. Individually, each of these details raised suspicion, but together, they painted a picture, a timeline that didn't match. A victim last seen with one man, photos placing her somewhere she was never supposed to be, searches that revealed intent, a possible cleanup, and a statement that hinted at something even bigger. By early 2026, investigators had what they needed. On February 20th, Ronald Raky was brought in again. This time, things were different. The tone, the process, it was all moving toward one outcome. He was read his rights, sat down, and for a brief moment, it seemed like this might finally be the conversation where everything comes out. But it didn't. Raky invoked his right to an attorney almost immediately, and just like that, the interview was over before it even began. Still, that didn't stop what was already in motion. He sat in that room for a long time after, quiet, composed, almost detached. When given the chance, he called his wife. His tone? Calm, controlled. He told her not to worry, said everything would work out. Even when speaking to his son, there was no panic, no visible fear, just the same steady demeanor. And then, eventually, the moment came. Handcuffs went back on, the same quiet instructions, the same controlled environment. Except this time, there was no going back. That morning at 5:43 a.m., Ronald Chester Raky was officially taken into custody and charged with second-degree murder in the death of Laeken Marie West. And yet, one crucial piece is still missing. Laeken has never been found. No remains, no confirmed location. Just a case built on evidence strong enough to move forward, but still leaving behind one painful absence. For her family, that means no closure. Just questions that still echo long after the arrest. Investigators continue to search, hoping that someone, somewhere, knows something, no matter how small, that could finally lead them to her. Because in cases like this, the truth doesn't just live in evidence. Sometimes, it lives in the one detail someone hasn't spoken about yet. If you've made it this far, make sure to like this video, share it with someone who follows true crime, and subscribe for more deep dive cases like this. And tell me this, based on everything you've heard, do you think Ronald Raky acted alone? Or is there something bigger still hidden beneath the surface? Drop your thoughts in the comments.